Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chris and Andre Show.
Starting off, it looks like the journalists out there are having a field day with President Biden referring to Douchey from Fox News as a stupid son of a bitch at his recent press conference. I thought it was hilarious, and my only piece is, I think it's very disingenuous that people are saying that the president should not be able to say that when we let for 4.5 years.
We're just going to be blinded. We're just going to pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, Nacho Lucho just go through and
we're going to pretend by grabbing by the P word it's never happened.
Yeah, so that's all I got to say. I thought it was hilarious, and I will always say I think Biden's got some low-key G energy going on. So
yeah, when he has it.
Yeah, so,
when he's got the energy.
So Joe, all right, so Joe, you go first. You got something to say?
No, that's it. I'm just worried about his energy levels. I think he needs to get some ginkgo biloba in his system. Sometimes he does look tired.
Well, can you really be tough if you have a secret service? Like, it's like saying like the hold me back method, where it's like you're not tough, dude. Like you have the U.S. military, the Secret Service, FBI. Well, you have all these people protecting you. It's like punching someone in front
he rolls deep.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, all right, tough guy. Yeah, I'm a bitch. Okay.
So on Andre's point, like Representative Jim Banks from Indiana, I believe, tweeted out today, have we ever seen a president attack and malign the free press like Joe Biden has?
I don't think Joe knows when he's in public. I think he's kind of...
I don't think he knows what a hot mic is as part of it.
Here's what I want to say, because I've been saying I think dude's got some G energy because I don't think he cares.
No, it's
like, I really don't think he cares. So anyway, enough with that. Next.
Well, he's done worse.
This is gonna the playoff weekend for me. I know everybody. It was a great weekend. The games that were won spectacularly. You got to give love and props to everybody that played. All the teams, actually. I do want to say I was low-key pulling for Tom Brady, just for the old guys out here. But it was great that Von Miller, my dude, that warrior.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? You pulling for Tom Brady? We literally sat here last week and said he might be a good dude. I might like him more that he's not in New England now. But there is no way in hell I want to see that guy go to another freaking... Do you realize this is the first championship weekend we will have in the last 13 years that doesn't have Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers in it? Thank God.
Yeah.
Let somebody else go win for once. Not but I'm ready for someone other than Tom Brady to go win some Super Bowls or championship appearances, I guess. I'd love for a team that I root for to do it. I guess I'm going to have to hope that the Bengals can pull off the upset.
You mean NC State?
Yeah, the NC State Bengals.
Okay. Sin, what do you got?
Cincinnati Wolfpack.
What is it? The Brady's out? Is that what?
Yeah, so Brady and Rodgers are both out of the playoffs now.
It's interesting. I don't know. I haven't watched. I'm a little underprepared for this part. I haven't watched football in a couple years, but I agree with you. I think Brady has kids, right?
Yeah.
So take a few months off, go home, hang out. That's
fair.
His kids are probably happy to have him back home.
That's fair. Next. This is probably very near and dear to my heart. I got an email today from the boys and girls at Docker. They are scraping for trying to fund their journey. So, to paraphrase the email, it's basically saying, we updated our terms of service, and if you're a company that makes X amount of dollars, you have to pay $5 per user to use Docker.
Yeah, sure.
All I gotta say is, man, they started out so hot. Really did. Everybody was all over Docker when the technology was in its infancy. And I always kept saying, and Chris can attest to this, that this is not the way to go. This is overblown, ain't gonna work out. and here we are, 5 years later?
Yeah.
And it's fizzling out.
Well, and I think, like, we've talked about this before. The idea behind Docker running like virtual machines or doing cloud computing in these smaller containers or containerized portions of hard drives, like, yeah, there's a purpose for it. But as usual, like, I think Docker's gotten to the point now where they think their shit doesn't stink. You know, it's like, we can do no wrong. Everybody needs to come use Docker for everything. And on top of that, you ran into the, like, look what I can put in a container. And it's like, you can literally put anything in a container. That's not the point. Like, you shouldn't just be doing this stuff just to do it. But
yeah. Anyway, and I know that's like probably way out of left field for you other guys, for Chris and Joe. But I just want to acknowledge the fact that I got an email today from Docker asking me for my money.
yeah.
Well, from a business standpoint, I kind of understand it. From like is it a small startup kind of company, or no? Yeah.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They're
were.
humongous. Yeah.
They were a startup for sure, but yeah, they are the leading container platform out there, right? For service.
For like cloud
stuff, sure. Yeah.
The problem I have with Docker is that they're another company that try to, like, I think you can make money with open source software in that environment. Your mission's got to be clear at the beginning.
Yeah, it's tough to pull off. I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think they lost their way because they drink their own Kool-Aid, and I don't want them to fail. I just think that it's just a warning for other companies coming up. Hey, be strategic and smart about how you grow, and you can eat your own dog food, but don't drink the Kool-Aid. So.
Yeah, and small is probably the way to stay, right?
No, I don't think small is necessarily. I don't think big is bad. I just think that companies have a tendency to, they look at valuation, they look at, adoption of their technology, especially in the tech space, and they forget that it's a journey. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of the times you end up with growth for the sake of growth, right? The company doesn't necessarily need to grow. There isn't really the opportunity, but like, you're going to bring on a whole bunch of new employees to make yourself look bigger, right? To make oh, we need these people in these roles if we're going to be taken seriously within the industry. And so, I think to Andre's point, it's like, just stick with what got you here in the first place, and far too often I think like just the mission gets lost.
Yeah. Next. Oh, Kyrsten Sinema.
Is it Kristen or Kyrsten?
Kristen, whatever.
It doesn't really matter, but like I hear it pronounced both ways all the time, so I'm just trying to make sure.
It is Kyrsten, yeah. Oh, she got censured by the Democrats in Arizona. My only point in this is like, and I mentioned this last week, that Democrats typically they play politics with a butter knife while the Republicans have a butcher's knife. They just got to play.
I think they play with the butcher knife behind their back. Like,
no, they don't. They're the most ineffective.
Wait, who plays with the butcher knife behind their back? The Republican
The Democrats.
Party?
The Democrats.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think that they might play with a bigger butcher knife. It's a little tough because I think it's a more sophisticated. I don't know. This might not be a quick topic, but it's a little bit more sophisticated. So if you think about the idea of welfare, like pushing welfare, it seems on surface like, oh, that's a good idea. Sure, why not? But then when it plays out, it's like, oh, you're actually taking away the ability for certain people to implement. Like it's kind of like drug dealing, where it's like, oh, now sure they're performing better a little bit, but it's like now they have this extra need or extra reliance on this thing that you've been providing.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole, because the rabbit hole you're walking into, I'm gonna just I will. It's not a sound argument, because like welfare in general came about with the big New Deal, or whatever the New Deal was called, whatever that official term was, like right after the Depression, right? It's been systematically used more in poor rural areas by whites.
Sure, it's not a racist thing.
No, I'm just saying but I'm saying the Democrats did not even come up with the idea of the program itself. So,
but
that's not.
They eventually put it more of the thing that they're a part of rather than conservatives over time.
That's not true. That's even not true. It's a misnomer, and I actually used to agree.
You hear more conservatives today saying, "Hey, let's do more welfare," as opposed to Democrats today.
Actually, nobody talks about welfare.
Out of the two of those, who do you hear bring up more?
None. Social programs.
Then,
social programs, yes, but they've switched the whole dynamic to to social programs such as education and medical benefits.
And I think that's a good point, and maybe that's where there's the disconnect, right? Is that welfare itself, I think, is often viewed as getting literal cash or food stamps, right, from the government. But I think, to your point, there's some of that definitely still goes on, but there's been at least a bit of a shift towards, well, how can we provide education or training for these individuals to be able to step out of this? This isn't, because I hear what you're saying, Chris. I don't want welfare to be the crutch that somebody becomes dependent on, right? And I think that's the argument that we hear a lot of times is well, if you give it to them, then they're just going to expect it, or now it's well, I don't have to work to get it. I think we need programs in place that help people to get from point A to point B in a clear, concise, direct way.
yeah.
And
the only reason I brought it up,
I am pro work requirements. I've always been pro work requirements. I've seen people sell food stamps. I've seen people that have this whole system of, if you get 75 cents on a dollar or 50 cents, 50 to 75 cents on a dollar for food stamps, that's a great deal, right? If you can actually get these benefits and not have to prove that you work, or you work for 3 months and quit, that's a great deal. I'm all about eliminating all that crap and giving it to people that actually need it. And one thing that actually really makes you remember that is in 08 and 09, when there was a lot of middle-class people that lost their jobs and lost everything. Those middle-class people couldn't get any help from any social program in our system, whether it be state and or federal.
Well, in a moment like 2008, that's where it becomes blatantly obvious that neither of the parties are on the people's side.
And we can agree on that.
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
We can agree.
I mean, and even
it's only.
I don't think
exactly.
things are
right now,
that much different now, 14 years later, than they were in 2008, right?
No,
the
absolutely
country's
not.
not in the same position, but.
No.
To my point, and circle back around to Kyrsten Sinema. Yo, play better ball. Get people that actually represent the people of whatever state that is or locality. Hey, all for that, all day long. Kyrsten, I think she played. I'm not a big fan, so that's all I got.
Yeah.
All right, next. Please, everybody, stop playing with Bitcoin.
All right, I want to hear Chris's opinion on this, because you are the youngest of any of us that are here, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And what is your take on the whole crypto scene? Not even just specifically Bitcoin, but I think Andre and I have looked at this and we can't help but say this is the world's biggest scam that's ever been portrayed.
No, it is. It 100% is.
Okay.
Can I curse on here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's this show I watch that does it's kind of like the American Idol for comedians called Kill Tony. And there's this comedian on there who a few months ago, he was like, yeah, man, I don't really trust, his name's David Lucas, they don't really trust Bitcoin. Too many hood niggas know about it. And that's kind of my thing about it. It's pretty much any time that the top comes down to say, I mean, this is a little bit different because it's presented as grassroots.
Right.
But when there's anyone that says, hey, man, this is a good idea for you, it's okay. No, man, no.
Good idea for
Why
them.
would they be bothering to tell you that it's a good idea for you to invest in Bitcoin if there wasn't something ultimately in it for them?
Yeah, and especially a long time ago, there's a lot of dangerous people. Well, there's some speculation about, I think it's a Russian guy, I think Soros or something like that. People were in it.
Jewish.
People were in it a long time ago, which is another thing. People were in it a long time ago. I'm kidding. People,
well, it was nice having Chris on the podcast.
I'm kidding. People were in it a long time ago, and they're handing out a large amount of Bitcoin. It's pretty much like you're saying. It's another pyramid scheme. It's nonsense.
So, like, I think I told you about this, Andre. Like, my dad had a guy that he used to work with who runs a company now, and he reached out to him because he had this idea where he was going to start getting his employees, he was going to encourage them to start taking at least part of their paychecks in Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
And my dad's like, so I'm really thinking I got to get into cryptocurrency. And he's like, I want you to sit in and listen to this presentation that Kirk's going to give so that, you know, I can get your opinion on it. And I'm like, all right, I'm not really big on Bitcoin. I don't know that much, but I'm glad to sit in and just listen and then give you my 2 cents.
Sure thing.
That was the worst pitch. And not because the guy was saying anything wrong, but it just kept coming back to him like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I hear what you're saying and I hear the logic that you're trying to ascribe to it, but ultimately it's a fixed system that somebody is manipulating. Like, it's forced manipulation of the market in order to determine the value when you are having what's left every so often. It just doesn't. And then I kept trying to get my dad, I'm like, what is in it for him? There's got to be some reason that he wants his employees to take this. It's not because he thinks it's in their best interest. Yeah, like he's getting some kickback, right? Or he sees it as a way to increase the value of his Bitcoin, even if it's just that. But it's like, no, I'm sorry, I've just gotten to the point where there are very few people that I feel like do things truly altruistically, you know?
No.
Okay, hold on, real quick. In reference to, you know, bullshit startup things like that. Back in the day when people didn't know GameStop had a credit card tied to it. When I was happy to be right when I was working, they started doing credit card fiasco. They made it mandatory that every employee learn the process of how to get people to sign up for the credit card by applying for them for themselves. I literally told my general manager at the regional meeting, fuck that, I'm not doing that. And he's like, why not? I'm like, because it's going to mess my credit. He's like, yeah, but I mean, it's only going to take like 15 points off.
They tried to run that scam all throughout retail as well.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, my best friend is Jewish. So.
That's cool. My best friend is black.
You guys, all three of you are idiots. Well, thank you. Next. So, there's a little bit of hate coming out of the studios at AdultSwim. Mm-hmm. One of the execs is basically saying, Arcane will not be the golden standard for animation. And he just started throwing shade. They had 6 years to develop the show. They had this large budget, and it only goes to Netflix. The show's only going to be on Netflix. And I'm like, yo, but can't you raise the bar? That's all I got out of the whole thing. I'm like, but they raised the bar on storytelling, animation, introducing characters, introducing all the things that people want to introduce in the modern media presence today. Flawless.
Yeah, they made it grown up.
Next.
Nobody else even gets to say anything. Andre's just like,
no. I'm saying. I said it. I'm saying next to Adult Swim. It's like everything they were able to accomplish. You kind of done it with Venture Brothers and a couple shows. A lot of the shows they have, they've got bits and pieces of what Arcane was able to do. So
look how long it took Venture Brothers to get anywhere.
I am not disputing that. My point is try harder. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's something to be said for allowing time to invest and create these shows, right? If you're really behind it and you think that it's ultimately going to be a good show, if it takes you 6 years to do it, I understand from a business standpoint, not everybody looks that way, but obviously Netflix looked at it and was like, no, we think we can make some money off of this. So, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of it is just Adult Swim sitting there being like, oh crap, somebody's coming after our, animation.
Our market.
And so, of course, what else would you expect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful when, most people that are giving their instant reaction on things, especially people that have interest in a company not like another, like it's, in this case, it sounds like there's competitors involved. You got to pretty much just say whatever they're saying is just manipulative.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, Adult Swim doesn't have any of their stuff on Netflix. I think they're partnered with Hulu. So why on earth would he ever say something nice about anything on Netflix? Like he has no financial interest in that. So
exactly.
Here we go. Next.
That was it, wasn't it?
All right. So.